Okay, moving towards independence, part 2, test review. I'll start over there with Mr. Bakari. I want you to answer this question for me, my man. Who took over the British Parliament in 1767 and convinced them to place taxes on all items of everyday use in America that were being imported from Great Britain? Charles Townshend, very good. So who took over the British Parliament in 1767 and convinced them to place taxes on all items of everyday use in America that were being imported from Great Britain? Charles Townshend. Nick, what was the name of the search warrants that Parliament passed during the Townshend Acts? What was the legal name of the search warrants that Parliament passed during the Townshend Acts? The legal name, it's a law, but they were in essence search warrants. Might want to have your ID sheets out, folks, because a lot of this stuff comes right off of that. We're going pretty much in order. What was the name of those search warrants that Parliament passed during the Townshend Acts? Writs of assistance, that's right. Now let them answer when I ask them. Dash, give me one way that American colonists peacefully protested the Townshend Acts.
They refused to abide to the Quartering Act of 1765.
Okay, give me another one, if you would, Elizabeth.
They refused to issue the writs of assistance.
Okay. Give me another one, Maria.
Colonists signed petitions complaining of unfairness.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing too bad. What was that?
They signed petitions complaining of unfairness.
They signed petitions voicing their displeasure over the writs of assistance. That's correct. Jada, how about another one?
Colonial merchants signed a non-importation agreement.
Very good. Yeah, that was probably the big one. Do we have any others? I think there's one more.
They would not abide the Quartering Act.
Wait, no, that's what. Who said that? Yeah. Remember, not only did they sign petitions voicing their displeasure over the writs of assistance, they also initiated a flood of advertising pamphlets. Remember that? Did you see the soldier putting up that pamphlet on the post? That's what those were. Those are advertisements. Okay. All right. Carter, give me one way that American colonists took a more revolutionary approach to protesting the Townshend Acts. Give me an example of how American colonists took a more revolutionary approach to protesting the Townshend Acts. There's many. You should have 3 ways in your notes, folks, that the colonists protested the writs of assistance. One was through peaceful protest, which we've talked about. The other one was through colonial assembly, which we haven't talked about. And the third one was a revolutionary approach. I'm looking for examples of that revolutionary approach, Carter. Are you with it here or what, Carter? I'm still waiting for you.
Oh, so there was the peaceful protest and legislative protest.
Now, I'm looking for examples of the revolutionary protest.
Oh, they boarded British ships and destroyed their ships.
Well, they boarded British custom ships and caused damage to the vessels, right? Okay, Austin, give me another example of a more revolutionary approach.
They assaulted British custom officials.
Very good. Ira, give me another one.
They tarred and feathered the American colonists.
Yeah, you can always remember that one. They're always doing that, right? So the tar and feathering. Did you see that on the video where they poured the hot tar on the guy and then threw the feathers? That would be incredibly uncomfortable. Dominic, how about another revolutionary approach?
They taunted British soldiers.
By?
Called them redcoats, lobsters, and everything like that.
Very good. Mr. Macy, how about one more?
They stoned and snowballed officials depending on weather.
Okay, why don't we say they threw stones and snowballs? Stoning them means a little different thing. You know the difference between throwing snowballs and stoning someone? Okay, so they threw snowballs and stones at the soldiers. You're going to at least need to know 3 of those, so make sure you know at least 3 of those. Sydney, my dear, name the British loyalist whose actions by shooting an innocent boy sparked what would be known in American history as the Boston Massacre. Again, name the British loyalist whose actions by shooting an innocent boy sparked what would be known in American history as the Boston Massacre.
Was it Ebenezer Richardson?
Ebenezer Richardson. Very good.
I thought the massacre was when the British dude shot the five.
That's true, but the question says, name the British loyalist whose actions by shooting an innocent boy sparked what would be known as in American history as the Boston Massacre. What that means, Hendrik, is it kind of got people upset that led to the next action. Okay, Pudge, who was that innocent boy that was shot and killed, leading to angry colonial emotions against the British?
Christopher Sider.
Christopher Sider. Make sure you have that name spelled correctly. Julie, who is the founding father of America that no one knows? Dr. Joseph Warren. He earned it. Dr. Joseph Warren. Now I want you to listen to this question, Raylyn, before you answer the first part of it. The rest you got to listen to because you don't know what I'm going to call on next. Here's the question. Explain the spark that fueled the fire contributing to the Boston Massacre. What I'm asking for there is what caused the actual Boston Massacre. Answer the following order. What regiment of the British soldiers were involved? What were the British soldiers guarding? And what did the colonists do to provoke the soldiers to give the order to fire? So, let's read again. Explain the spark that fueled the fire contributing to the Boston Massacre. First of all, Raylyn, what regiment of the British soldiers were involved? What regiment of the British soldiers were involved? The number between 38 and 40. The 39th British Regiment. What regiment of the British soldiers were involved? The 39th Regiment. Cody, what were the British soldiers guarding?
The customs house.
They were guarding a customs house. And Wyatt, what did the colonists do to provoke the soldiers to give the order to fire? Okay, they were throwing stones and snowballs, and what was the one that got, what was the last thing that they were throwing? Stones, snowballs, and finally what? Kind of has to do with snowballs, but it's ice. Remember, the fellow got hit by the piece of ice, knocked him down. Yep.
Is it the 39th or the 29th?
39th. Or, no, it's the 29th, isn't it? 29th, yeah. 29th. 29th Regiment, yep, thank you. 29th Regiment. So I'll read the question again. Explain the spark that fueled the fire contributing to the Boston Massacre. Here's the questions you're answering. Answer the following in order, and it'll have 9, 10, 11. So you'll answer them in order. Number 9, so the answer would be, what regiment of the British soldiers were involved? The 29th Regiment. What were the British soldiers guarding? That would be number 10, a customs house. And what did colonists do to provoke soldiers to give the order to fire? Under 11 would be they threw rocks, snowballs, and finally ice.
So we can answer just 29th.
29th Regiment, yep. Okay. Brianne, here's the next question. I'll just read it. It says, in detail, explain the casualties of the Boston Massacre, including those names specifically. So under number 12, tell me how many died immediately. We're talking about casualties of the Boston Massacre. So how many died immediately? Okay.
5 columns.
Did they all die immediately?
No.
Who died immediately? How many? 3 died immediately. Then, Kinley, how many were mortally wounded?
4.
2. There you go. And specifically, Brianna, who were those that were mentioned in the lecture? We didn't mention all 5. We mentioned 2. Who we mentioned? Crispus Attucks, yeah. And who's the other one? And Patrick Carr, right? So, here's how the question says. It says, in detail, explain the casualties of the Boston Massacre, including those names specifically. Then it has 12, 13, and 14 under that. For 12, you're going to put 3 killed. For 13, you're going to put 2 mortally wounded. And for 14, you're going to put Crispus Attucks and Patrick Carr. Right? Okay. Okay, Callan, name the patriot lawyer who defended the British soldiers that were tried for the murder of American colonists during the Boston Massacre? John Adams. Again, I'll repeat that. Name the patriot lawyer who defended the British soldiers that were tried for the murder of American colonists during the Boston Massacre. John Adams. Okay? Cody. Explain the end, I want everybody to pay attention to this. Explain the end result of the trial, including specific soldiers that were convicted. And that's going to be 15, 16, and 17. Okay? So again, explain the end result of the trial, including specific soldiers that were convicted. So under 16, what was the first result of the trial? How many were acquitted?
6 soldiers were acquitted for murder.
Okay, that's 16.
4 of them got off of not guilty, and the 2 of them were tried for guilty. And the 2 that were tried for guilty were Hugh Montgomery and Matthew Kilroy for manslaughter.
Is that correct? How many were tried?
6.
How many were tried? How many people think that 8 were tried? Okay. How many were?
And 6 were convicted, not guilty.
That's right. 8 were tried. 6 were 6. So here's what 16 should say. The end result of the trial, including specific soldiers that were convicted. For 16, you should say 8 men were tried, 6 were acquitted. That's number 16. Under 17, 2 were found guilty of manslaughter. And 18 should be the ones that were convicted, which were who, Cody?
Hugh Montgomery and Matthew Kilroy.
There you go. So here's the question. Explain the end result of the trial after the Boston Massacre, including specific soldiers that were convicted. For number 16, you're going to put 8 were tried, comma, 6 acquitted. Number 17, 2 were found guilty of manslaughter. And 18 should say who? Hugh Montgomery and Matthew Kilroy. Okay, has everybody got that? Yep,
Are those names in our thingies?
they are. What's that?
Last names only on the towns or both?
There's 2 Montgomery, there's 2 Hughes, but Hugh Montgomery and, yeah, put Hugh Montgomery, it's a good question. Hugh Montgomery and who? Matthew Kilroy, okay? I find this easier way to do it than having you write it all out, you know what I mean? Just simpler. Okay, where are we at? Sydney, who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain when the Townshend Acts were repealed? Who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain when the Townshend Acts were repealed? Good Lord, you should know this.
Frederick North.
Oh, Lord Frederick North, is that right? Yeah. Lord Frederick North. Make sure you have Lord, because that he earned it. Lord Frederick North. Connor. Who was the British commander that made it his personal mission to stop all smuggling of goods by the colonists into American ports?
William Dugginston.
William Duddingston. And Jada, what was the name of his ship? Gaspé. Now, it's not spelt like it sounds, so make sure you get that right, okay? Maria, who was the wealthy colonial merchant that was angry because his business was being hurt by the actions of this British commander? John Brown. Very good, my dear. Okay, Elizabeth, everybody listen because there's 3 parts of this. Name the 3 things in order this colonial merchant and or his men did to get payback for their anger. Let me read that again. Name the 3 things in order this colonial merchant and or his men did to get payback for their anger. That'll be 23, 24, and 25. So what's the first thing this colonial merchant did or his men did to get payback for their anger? What's the first thing he did, Elizabeth?
He gathered 65 men to raid on 8 small boats.
Okay, what I'm more after is, and I might rephrase the question, once they got to the Gaspé, what did they do? What was the first thing they did?
Shot the commander.
They is who? They is who is they?
It's
First thing that happened is
Joseph, then
Joseph Buckman shot Commander Duddingston. Then what happened next, Ash?
Then they captured all the crew, set
They
a
boarded,
fire.
they boarded the ship and captured the crew. And then what did they do, Nick?
They set the ship on fire.
Which eventually blew up because the fire hit the powder magazine. Okay, so let's read the question, get through it again. Name the three things in order this colonial merchant and or his men did to get payback for their anger once they reached the gas bay. Elizabeth, number one, they,
shot the commander.
who's they?
Joseph Buckman.
Joseph Buckman shot the commander. Okay, Dash, second thing.
Boarded the ship and captured the crew.
Board the ship and capture the crew. And Nick, the third thing they did was,
Lit the ship on fire.
and when the fire reached the powder magazine, it,
Exploded.
there you go, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so don't be short on your answer. Always say who is they. I love writing on tests, who is they?
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I better not write that on your test form, who is they? Or who is he? Okay? Mr. Beccaria, what was the main reason for the British Parliament's decision to enact the Tea Act of 1773? Main reason the British Parliament decided to enact the Tea Act of 1773? To show the American colonists who was boss. To show the American colonists who is boss. That is the answer. Okay, Wyatt. Why were members of the British Parliament so eager to help the East India Company when the colonial boycott of British tea brought the company near bankruptcy? Why were they so eager to help them out?
Because they were a part of the tea.
They're very close. I want you to put they were stockholders in the tea company. They weren't part of it, they were stockholders. Okay, that means they had money invested. And if they went bankrupt, these guys in Parliament lost their money. Okay, so the simple answer to that is because they had stock in the tea company. Who was they? Now let me make a point there. She makes a good point. Why were members of the British Parliament? So if I mentioned members of the British Parliament, could you put they and get it right?
Yes.
Yeah, you could, because in the question it says British Parliament. Whereas the question Elizabeth had didn't say anything about anybody that shot a commander. So that's always good. That's a good point. So it says, why were members of the British Parliament so eager to help the East India Company? You could put because it's identified in the question that we're talking about the British Parliament. Very good. Okay, we'll go to Kendrick. Here you go. Who did the British Parliament send to America to serve as governor of Massachusetts after the Boston Tea Party?
Thomas Gage.
And what was he? Make sure you put his title, because that's important. Was he Mr.? Was he Doctor?
Dr. Thomas.
No.
Mr.
No.
Thomas Gage.
No.
Prime Minister Thomas
No.
Gage.
Militarily. Militarily
Thomas.
speaking. Militarily speaking.
Sergeant.
No, higher than that.
Commander.
Highest you'd get.
President.
Well, that's not, the president isn't in the military.
General.
General, yeah. General Thomas Gage. Make sure you put that. Myra? Because of the intolerable acts, the Patriots held numerous meetings in Massachusetts establishing resolutions that became known as what?
The Suffolk
The
Resolve.
Suffolk Resolves. Very good. Suffolk Resolves. I'll repeat that again. Because of the intolerable acts, the Patriots held numerous meetings in Massachusetts establishing resolutions that became known as what? The Suffolk Resolves. Carter, did I get you Austin for anything today? I'm going to get you again. What was the name of the meeting that began on September 5th, 1774 with delegates from 12 of the 13 colonies that met in Philadelphia?
It was the First Continental Congress.
First Continental Congress. And Carter, when they met again in the spring of 1775, it was the Second Continental Congress. Okay, very good. All right, there will be 30 answers to this test. They'll be worth 3 apiece. The test will be worth 90. It'll be tomorrow. Does anybody have any questions? Now, a couple of hints. Make sure you have these names spelled correctly off this ID sheet. Okay, make sure you understand that first and last names this time. Okay, make sure we have that under control. Make sure we know the answers to these particular questions in detail so we're not digging you for points. Okay, any questions? After this test material, we'll move on to the American Revolution, Part 1. Okay, you got the rest of the period to study quietly.